Welcome to Tales by WZ. Today's story is about a man whose fiancée calls off their wedding at brunch in front of her friends, then expects him to rescue her from $62,000 of debt she chose to take on alone. As you listen, think about what you would have done the moment she said, "I do not love you anymore," across the table. My fiancé said, "I don't love you." I replied, "Thank you for your honesty." Then I calmly stood up, took back the ring, announced a dodged a bullet party instead of a wedding, and watched as she realized the $62,000 debt was all hers. I am 31, and this is about the strangest Sunday of my life. My fiancée is 29. We had been together 4 years, engaged for 8 months, wedding set for 6 weeks from now. As far as I knew, everything was on track. We had a venue, catering, flowers, photographer, the usual. That morning she suggested brunch with her 3 closest friends. "It will be fun, relaxed, nothing special," she said. I agreed. I thought we would talk about last details and laugh over mimosas. We sat at a nice place, drinks flowing, everyone chatting about bridesmaid dresses and hair trials. In the middle of a light story, she suddenly went quiet. Her friends noticed. "Are you okay?" one asked. My fiancée took a breath, looked at me and said, "I need to say something." I thought maybe she wanted to change the venue or was nervous about the guest list. Instead, she said very clearly, "I cannot do this anymore. I am calling off the wedding. I do not love you anymore." Just like that. In front of her 3 friends, while the waiter was walking up with my eggs Benedict, her friends gasped. One covered her mouth. Another whispered, "Are you serious?" I sat there for about 10 seconds, letting it land. Then a kind of calm settled over me. Sometimes the shock strips away the fog and you see everything clearly. "Thank you for your honesty," I said. I held out my hand. "The ring, please." She stared at me. "What?" "The engagement ring," I said. "It is mine. It was my grandmother's. I would like it back." Her friends were watching like it was a live show. She slowly pulled it off and put it in my hand. I slid it into my pocket and stood up. "Well, this changes plans," I said. "I was going to host a wedding reception in 6 weeks. Now I will be hosting a dodged a bullet party instead. Same venue, same catering, same open bar. You are all still invited." Her friends giggled. They thought I was joking. People often laugh first and understand later. Then I added, "and about the wedding expenses. The $62,000 in deposits, you insisted on putting in your name to prove you are an independent modern woman. Those are all yours now. Good luck with that. Also, you will need to move out of my apartment by the end of the month since you refused to sign a lease." The laughter stopped. Her face went pale. "Wait, what?" she said. "Your name is on everything," I said. "The venue, the catering, the photographer, the flowers. You insisted. You said it was important for your credit and your independence. Congratulations on your independence." One of her friends whispered, "Oh no," under her breath. "And one more thing," I said, taking out my phone. "My uncle was planning to give us $150,000 as a wedding gift. It was all set up, but it depended on us actually getting married. So that is gone too." I put $40 on the table for my untouched food. "Enjoy brunch, ladies," I said. "I have a party to plan." Then I walked out. In the car, my hands shook, but I meant every word. Sometimes you do not realize how thin the ice is until someone jumps on it. 3 days later, the fallout began. About 2 hours after brunch, my phone started lighting up. Her mom, her sister, her friends. Her mom called first. "You cannot just abandon her with all that debt," she said. "You were planning to get married. That money was for both of you." "She called off the wedding," I said. "The expenses are in her name by her choice. I am not legally or morally required to pay for a wedding that is not happening." "She made those deposits assuming you would help," her mom said. "She made those deposits assuming we would get married," I said. "She ended the engagement. There are consequences." Her mom started crying, called me heartless, and hung up. Her sister texted, "She is having a panic attack. The costs are going to ruin her." "You are really going to let that happen?" I wrote back, She publicly called off the wedding and expected me to keep paying. Yes, I am going to let her deal with that. Then I blocked her sister. There is a point where every message is just a different wrapper for the same demand. On Monday, my ex showed up at my building. I saw her on the camera buzzing the door for 15 minutes before I answered the intercom. "We need to talk," she said. "No, we do not," I said. "Please," she said. "I made a mistake. I was overwhelmed." "We can work this out." "You said you do not love me anymore," I replied. "Remember brunch?" "I did not mean it like that," she said. "I was scared." "You meant it enough to say it in front of your friends," I said. "You meant it enough to blindside me in a restaurant." "You own those words." "What about the wedding costs?" she asked. "You have to help me. I cannot afford $62,000 in debt." "You should have thought about that," I said, "before you ended the wedding." "This is financial abuse," she said. I actually laughed. "Sometimes the framing tells you everything." "You put everything in your name," I said. "You refused to let me be on the contracts because you wanted to prove independence. I am just not saving you from your own decisions." "I will sue you," she said. "For what?" I asked. "Not marrying you." She stood there crying for another 10 minutes. I let the silence answer for me, then she left. Tuesday, her maid of honor called. "Look, she handled this badly," she said, "but she is drowning. Can you help with at least some of the deposits?" "Why would I do that?" I asked. "Because you loved her," she said. "Past tense," I replied. "She ended that on Sunday." "She is going to lose her apartment," she said. "She cannot make rent and wedding payments." "That is unfortunate," I said. "But not my job to fix." "How can you be so cold?" she asked. "How could she call off a wedding at brunch?" I said. "We all make choices." She tried guilt for 20 more minutes. I said I was done and hung up. When people only talk about your duty and never her choices, you know what side they are on. Wednesday morning, I got an email from a lawyer, her lawyer, demanding I pay my share of the wedding expenses because they had been undertaken with mutual understanding that we would share the cost. My lawyer replied on my behalf. The short version was simple. She insisted on putting all contracts in her own name. She unilaterally called off the wedding. No shared obligation existed. We declined. Her lawyer sent back a longer message, threatening to sue for promissory estoppel and unjust enrichment. My lawyer called me. "She has no real case," he said. "Expenses are in her name. She ended the engagement. If she sues, we will defend, but any judge will likely throw it out." "How much would it cost me if it goes anywhere?" I asked. "Maybe 5,000 to 10,000, he said. "But I doubt it will go that far." "Defend everything," I said. "I am not giving her a cent." Here is what everyone around her kept ignoring. She did not just call off a wedding. She did it in a way that was clearly meant to put me on the spot and make me look small. Now that it backfired, suddenly I was cruel for not paying to fix it. 3 days later, I sent out invitations for the dodged a bullet party. Bar instead of a banquet hall. Small space, appetizers, open tab. 30 people confirmed. My family, friends, even 2 of her friends who privately said she was out of line. $800 total. Cheapest wedding bill I have ever seen. 10 days after brunch, things got messier. Her father called me at work, somehow got my direct line. "You are destroying my daughter's life over pride," he said. "Your daughter did this to herself," I said. "She called off the wedding. She signed the contracts." "She made a mistake," he said. "People make mistakes." "People also live with the results," I said. "That is how life works." "I am offering to mediate," he said. "You pay half, she pays half, clean slate." "No," I said. "Why are you so stubborn?" he asked. "She chose to dump me at brunch in front of her friends," I said. "Now she wants my money to clean her mess. That is not stubbornness. That is self-respect." "We cannot afford to help her with all of it," he said. "We have our own bills." "Then she will need to figure it out herself," I said, "like an independent modern woman." He tried threats, said he knew people, said I would regret this. I told him I record my calls in a one-party consent state and hung up. Suddenly, that line went quiet. A mutual friend later filled me in on the missing piece. She had been talking to a guy at her gym for 3 months. Emotional affair, at least. She told him she was in love with him. She called off the wedding because she wanted to pursue her happiness with him. Then he found out about the $62,000 in wedding debt and the drama. He vanished. No more messages. No more interest. She was left alone, broke, and desperate. That part was painful to hear, but it also made things clearer. This was never about her just needing space. It was about lining up another option and assuming I would still be there holding the safety net. Her sister waited for me in the lobby of my building one night. "She is falling apart," she said. "She has lost weight, she cannot sleep, collectors are calling, this punishment does not fit the crime." "What punishment?" I asked. "I am not doing anything to her, I am just not rescuing her." "You could help," she said. "You have the money." "I do," I said. "Money I kept by not calling off my own wedding and loading myself with debt." "She thought you would always be there for her," she said. "She was right," I said, "until she broke up with me publicly. That changed the deal." She tried one more angle. "What about the $150,000 from your uncle? Can you ask him to give it anyway?" "So you want me to ask my uncle for $150,000 to give to my ex so she can pay off a wedding she canceled?" I asked. "No, that is not happening." "You are being cruel," she said. "I am being fair," I said. "She made grown-up choices. She gets grown-up consequences." I stood up and ended it there. Later, I got a friend request from the gym guy. Curiosity won, so I accepted. "Dude, I had no idea she was engaged," he wrote. "She told me she was single, just wanted you to know." "Thanks," I replied. "She says I ruined her life." "I did not call off the wedding," he wrote. "That is all I know. She is intense. Good luck." He unfriended me right after. Probably the smartest move he made. Then her lawyer went ahead and filed an actual lawsuit. Breach of promise, unjust enrichment, intentional infliction of emotional distress. They threw every phrase they could at the wall. My lawyer called it what it was. "A nuisance suit," he said. "We will file to dismiss. The facts are bad for her." Thursday evening, my ex slipped into my building when someone held the main door. She came up to my floor and started pounding on my apartment. "Open up," she yelled. "We need to talk." I called building security. They escorted her out. She yelled all the way down the hall about how I was ruining her life and she had rights. The manager called me after. "We have documented this," he said. "She is now banned from the property. If she comes back, we call the police." Friday, I finished the party planning. 32 people confirmed. I had a banner printed that said "Dodged a bullet, a celebration." My mom asked if I was sure. "She called off our wedding at brunch," I said. "They laughed when I said I would throw a party." "I am just keeping my word." She sighed, but she and my dad both came. 2 weeks later, the party happened. 32 people showed up. Friends, family, co-workers, and 2 of her friends who had quietly stepped away from her side when they heard the full story. The banner made everyone smile. We took photos in front of it. The bar served drinks, food came out, and the mood was light. My best friend raised a glass. "To our friend," he said, "who dodged not just a bullet, but a whole firing squad. And to him for not paying $62,000 for the honor of being dumped at brunch." People laughed and cheered. It was less about mocking her and more about celebrating that I had not folded. I posted a few photos online. No tags, no names. Just a caption about new beginnings. She saw them anyway. Her mom called the next day. "How dare you mock my daughter publicly," she said. "I threw a party with my friends," I said. "I did not mention her once." "That banner, those posts," she said. "You are humiliating her." "She humiliated herself," I said. "I am just living my life." "She is talking about bankruptcy," her mom said. "Do you understand that?" "Yes," I said. "That is what happens when you take on debt you cannot afford and then push away the person who was supposed to stand beside you." "You could end this," she said. "Help her." "Why?" I asked. "She did not just break up with me. She planned a public scene, put every bill in her own name, tried to sue me, and has been telling everyone I ruined her life. I do not reward someone for treating me like that." She hung up in tears. The lawsuit was dismissed last week. The judge took one look at the timeline, saw that she ended the engagement, that every contract was signed in her name, listened to a little argument, and tossed the case. He told her lawyer to stop wasting the court's time. It cost me about $9,200 in legal fees. I consider it tuition for a course on boundaries. She tried one more move. She went to my parents' house. My dad opened the door. Later he told me, she came in crying, begging me to talk you into helping, said she would lose everything, asked us to give her money because we were basically family. What did you say? I asked. I said you called off the wedding, you are not family. My son does not owe you anything. Then I closed the door, he said. Dad, thank you, I said. Son, I am proud of how you handled this, he said. A lot of men would have caved, you stood your ground. Right now, she is living back with her parents. She had to break her lease, pay fees, and is working 2 jobs to keep up with the payments. Her credit is wrecked. She is looking at debt consolidation or bankruptcy. Do I feel bad? Not really. She chose every step. She chose to put expenses in her name. She chose to end the wedding in the most dramatic way possible. She chose to chase another man. She chose to try to bully and sue me after. I chose not to save her from herself. I am out about $10,000 total, legal fees and party costs. She is out $62,000 plus her own legal fees, moving costs, and a wrecked credit score. People sometimes ask if I would help her now that it is over. The answer is no, not even a little, because this is not about money, it is about respect. If I paid now, I would be telling myself that her treatment of me was acceptable. She wanted independence. She got it. Here are some lessons I took from this. Lesson 1. If someone calls off a wedding in public and treats your humiliation like entertainment, they have already told you exactly how much they value you. Lesson 2. When a person insists on putting everything in their own name to prove independence, believe them when the bills come due. You are not required to step in. Lesson 3. Someone else's debt is not your responsibility, especially when that debt was built on plans they chose to destroy. Lesson 4. Pressure from family and friends does not turn a bad deal into a good one. You are allowed to say no, even when everyone tells you that you are cruel. Lesson 5. Saying no to being used is not spite, it is self-respect. You can care about someone and still refuse to fund the consequences of their choices. Lesson 6. Sometimes the healthiest revenge is not revenge at all. It is moving on, healing, and letting the person who caused the damage clean it up themselves. What would you have done in this situation? If your fiancée told you she did not love you anymore at brunch in front of her friends, would you still feel responsible for the wedding debt? And have you ever watched someone try to turn their bad choices into your obligation? Tell us how you handled it in the comments.